Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turnout. I am your host Aloy. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. Now, this is going to be a weird kind of topic, and I don't make videos like this a ton where I'm kind of talking about controversial things. I kind of let the dust settle a little bit on this particular topic of Joss Whedon. As anybody who's watched this channel knows, I am a huge Joss Whedon fan. I've watched like almost everything that he has ever done. I wouldn't say everything, but pretty much everything. I'm a huge fan of Buffy, loved Angel. Dollhouse was enjoyable, though I don't remember a lot of it, I've noticed. But basically everything culminated in the fact I just started watching The Nevers, and I do enjoy the show, and I noticed that he created it, and he's, like, involved. He's not, like, he didn't write everything, he doesn't, but he's an executive producer and whatnot. But I also know that HBO has distanced themselves from Joss Whedon due to the recent controversies and everything that have been going on surrounding his reputation. So, in this video, I just want to go ahead and preface that I'm not going to try and tell you what to think or tell you what to do. I am just going to kind of give you my thoughts and tell you how I am going to move forward, because it's a tricky thing to be in a position where something you love is found to have, deeper roots in something that is not necessarily all that great. So I guess the first thing to say is, yes, I love a lot of what Joss Whedon does. I also feel like in most things that he does, there's also many cringe moments where I'm like, oh, really though? Which I think is important. I feel like if you love something, you have to be able to criticize it, and you need to be able to discuss it with an open mind, not just say everything is great because it's mine and I love it and that's what you want. It's like you have to also kind of face reality and realize that not everything is peachy keen all the time. So if you don't know what ended up happening, which I don't know how you wouldn't know, but it was a few months ago, actually, no, it was more than a few months ago. There was a lot of talk about directors and people who were getting canceled in the media. And Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in the Justice League movie, came out and said working with Joss Whedon was one of the worst experiences of his life, and how he demeaned and attacked his people, and he was just a terrible director. And I will say just right off the bat, I at first kind of laughed it off, because then I also heard the story, and I can't remember what source I got this, but I heard the story that Joss Whedon kept saying, like, but Ray, you have to say booyah. And Ray was like, I will not say booyah. I'm giving it a voice. And I was just like, well, I'd get mad at somebody who was playing Cyborg if they didn't want to say booyah too, because booyah is something that Cyborg says. But then, of course, it started coming out that it was not just Ray Fisher, but also Jason Momoa, also Alec Baldwin, not Alec Baldwin, also Ben Affleck, and there were a lot of people who kind of had a problem with the way that he was managing his directorial stuff. Also, the fact that everybody hated his version of Justice League and how he rewrote so much of it. I think that had a big, thing to do with a lot of the backlash, as people, I think, were looking for reasons to already hate him anyway. And then he gave them that. So that, like, they were already like, hey, I want to not like this guy. And people were like, well, did you hear that he's terrible? Oh, whoa, hey, oh, now I really don't want to like him. But you know what? It's funny, because I think back, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but Tim Gunn, who was the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, he got called out for some weird tweets that he had done, some offensive tweets, and he ended up getting fired. And what came after that was that all of the actors that worked with him were like, you need to rehire this guy. You made a mistake. They went to bat for him, and he eventually got his job because people were like, no, 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 no. You are taking this completely out of context. You need to understand this, this, this. It was so long ago, and blah, blah, blah. And he's a different person and all that stuff. And it was just like, okay, that's very interesting. And then he ended up getting his job back because the perception of who he was did not line up with who he actually was. And everyone around him said, that is not him. You cannot fire him for this. So then if you notice that when Joss Whedon accusations started coming out, it was kind of more just a torrent of people saying, no, you're right, Ray. You're right, Ray Fisher. He's really terrible. And everybody started coming out about it. It was unsettling for me because I had always kind of held Joss Whedon up on this kind of pedestal due to just he's created so many characters that I love and so many stories. Again, they aren't perfect, and I'm often critical of them. If you've watched my videos, you already know that I will pick that shit apart. But, but you know, I always really looked at him as like a strong, feminist, strong writer, very creative person. And come to find out that he is not necessarily that. His wife wrote kind of an article, and it was like a letter, public letter, that was kind of detailing how during their marriage, she was kind of a shield for him because he was married to a strong woman, which meant he had to be feminist, but at the same time, he was cheating on her with several people, and that was during Buffy. And if you hear the stories about how Joss Whedon would degrade Charisma Carpenter, tell her she's fat when she was pregnant, and he would insult everybody, how he actually physically assaulted James Marsters because the network would not let him kill Spike. There was a story from Michelle Trachtenberg where she said, I was not allowed alone in a room with Joss. And that's all she said. She said, "Nuff said I was not alone in a room with allowed alone in a room with Joss." So I think that says a lot. But she's like, I'm not going to say anything else. But essentially, what has been let out there is that he would have challenges with his other producers to see who could make the women on set cry harder, and he was abusive, essentially, physically and emotionally abusive to anybody who's worked with him. It's interesting because some of the people are saying this definitely happened to me, and the people who it didn't happen to are like, I had no clue. So he did a really good job with making sure that people did not know of the way that he presented himself and the way he kept it a really good secret until he had kind of just worked with so many people and he was so high profile. And I think that we're in a sort of climate now that we're holding these kind of people to account. And so it's weird because as much as I love Joss Whedon's work, now I, as somebody who consumes media that has his name on it, I have to now reconcile the fact that I know that he is kind of a terrible person. And what does that mean? Does that mean that I continue watching it and just know and just be critical? Or does it mean that I just say no, and just stop? And that's a hard question. And again, I'm not going to try and tell you how to do it, but it does hurt. It does hurt. It hurts me in a large way to know that he is not the person that he ascribed himself to be. I have done quite a few Buffy videos already on the channel, and I'm not going to take them down. I feel like I was able to just kind of show my love for those things. I don't think I'm going to do too many more Buffy videos, if any at all. I actually have a Buffy video that I've been sitting on for at least 2 months because I've been trying to figure out if I wanted to move forward and if I was going to do that. And I think this video is kind of proof that I'm not going to release that video. And it was going to be all about like how Slayers are made, but knowing the type of stories that we've heard about Joss Whedon, knowing the backstory about how Slayers are made and how terrible it is, I think it just makes it even worse now. But what I will say is that I don't think that I will just entirely stop consuming the stuff. I will probably continue to watch the Nevers, especially since they did, sever ties with him. So even if he was there kind of as one of the initial creators, knowing that he's not going to be going forward makes a lot of sense. I probably won't buy anything else Buffy. I probably won't, give him more money. But the thing about some of the work that he's done, I'd said this kind of thing to somebody. It's like, so if there was a painter who painted this amazing mural about, feminism and empowerment, and it led to women gaining more confidence, and it did all this stuff, and then like you find out that the painter who painted that thing that inspired so many people was just a terrible person, and hated women, and all this stuff. I don't think that it erases the impact of the initial thing that he did. What it does is it contextualizes it. And what it does is it gives you pause in promoting other things, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't still good from that. I've heard people kind of compare it now, and the way that he's treated some people in his movies and his TV shows, similar to Stanley Kubrick, when he was making The Shining. He kind of drove Shelley Duvall to the brink of sanity. She didn't act for a long time after that. And she says that it was definitely because of the way that he directed, and he didn't just want her to act scared. He literally scared her, and he caused her to just continue working and wouldn't let her sleep. And it was just take after take after take. So when you're watching that movie, and she looks desperate and she looks tired, it's because the director did that to her. Yes, The Shining is an amazing piece of art, but you also have to then acknowledge that he broke a person in order to make that scene as powerful as it is. And that makes it really hard for me to watch The Shining after I found that out. Like before that, I'm like, oh man, she's an amazing actress. Then I found out what had to go into that, and I'm just like, what? And that's kind of how I feel a lot with some of Joss's things now. Now, knowing the treatment that he would be doing towards the people on set, it makes me understand some of the weird choices, or doesn't really make me understand it makes me recontextualize it. So now I'm looking at like, why is the fact that Black Widow can't have children, why is that like makes her a monster? And it's just like, because that's how Joss Whedon views things, and it's really like, that's a sad way to view things. But then you also notice that pops up in some other things. That pops up in his Dollhouse things, where there's lots of like, yes, it's kick-ass women, but they're all playthings, and there is no empowerment to them. The Slayer, even, Slayers are a product of men who created them, and it's like an institutional thing to make them do what you want them to do. And yes, Buffy is like one of the few who's broken the mold and whatnot, but like, there's a whole lot of stuff that is in his work that I believe needs to be critiqued. So what I will say is that more than likely, if I do make any more Joss Whedon related things, it will most likely be at a more critical angle to it, which will probably just mean that I probably just won't make any more. And I had an amazing series of like Buffy character motivation things, and I got 2 of them out. But I think I'm going to hold off on doing anything else Joss. I feel like I need to evaluate it myself, and it's weird because Buffy has been a part of like a lot of my stuff. I used to watch Buffy with my mom. I watched Buffy with my own son, and he enjoyed it. And like, I have a lot of moments in my life that Buffy was very important to, and just knowing that some of that is now even just slightly tarnished, it's sad, and it kind of hurts a bit. But at the same time, I've always been critical of the things in it that I didn't like. I've always been able to watch a thing and identify the good things in it and be like, ugh, that part's kind of crappy, but it's not crappy enough that would make me stop watching it. I will just acknowledge that it is crappy, and then I will, critique it. And if anybody asks me about it, I will say, yeah, man, that thing sucks, even though I like the show. Uh, but it's different when you're talking content in the thing that can be critiqued versus the person behind it, being kind of a creep and knowing that they're just bad faith actors. So, what I will say here is, again, I probably won't make any more Buffy things, but I do plan on. I want to start talking about the Nevers because I think it's an interesting show, and I like a lot of it. And I also know that Joss Whedon was initially part of it, and he was one of the co-creators and an executive producer, but they have severed ties with him, and it didn't really sound like they were that sad about it. So I'm just saying. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And if any of this like news that has come out, has that changed your views on Joss Whedon or any of the things that he's created? I would love to know that, and let's talk about it. And but let's be nice. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm not trying to cancel him. I'm just saying I just won't talk about him all that much anymore. But I do want to talk about the Nevers because I've enjoyed it so far. I think I'm 4 episodes in, and then I was waiting for more episodes to come out so I could binge them a bit. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the Nevers too. Anyway, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and I've been your host Aloy, and this has been the Turnout. So thanks for showing up.